Food on here. No,
I went in there to buy something for the
you
kids.
can't see the drivers unless you get the name of the driver.
Unless you were looking at high-end stuff, he did not give you the time of day.
Did they put this here so if I hit the hammer, I don't want to hit you?
Well, I'll fix that.
I don't know.
I just opened the shop and I got with a buddy.
Flip it over.
Flip it over.
What a bad idea it was. I wasn't there. I was down at Daytona working, of course. And so he called me up. He said, I hear you about opening a bike shop in town. I said,
I'm starting an initiative,
open a bicycle shop in town.
the African American Cultural Society.
So he had another shop in St.
I
Augustine, so he
just
closed
completed
one
my
on Coast,
second term
West.
as vice president. And
So
so I'm stepping away from some of those things. but
Yeah, yeah. You were, okay.
I'm starting an initiative with
Yeah, well,
Always
Bike
Bike
America
America.
was there originally, then they went up to the little circle area, which was a great location.
to involve
Across from
ACS
Benvenuto's.
more
Yep.
prominently
And then
in
he
These last 3 minutes are long, huh?
questioning,
decided to move out, bigger space,
vaccinating,
cheaper rent. Way out
and
almost,
developing
like
a
Sears
forum for
place,
people
the old
to,
Sears building. And at the same time he decided to move, the 98 fires came through. And like
we
just
met with them
disrupted
yesterday.
everything for months.
Joe spoke to
And
them,
of course,
Joe Matthews
he still
spoke to them at one time. I had submitted
play well
a
in, like,
proposal to
growing
AACS,
town.
the end of,
Took all the map and did a
after
whole
Christmas,
thick business plan with the whole SWOT,
suggesting that we
financials,
connect with
go
the
to
health
Cyprus
department, with the president, COVID-19 task force,
company in Daytona.
and other entities,
The
and have a forum that will address hesitancy.
Yeah, that's the one I went to.
Starting with our membership, which is about 400 people,
Yeah,
and
he's a
then,
good dude.
Yes.
if possible, and if the health
I was surprised to see
department
that
was amenable to
It's
it,
331 megabytes.
Yeah, it was getting tough on our map.
ACS, or the vaccination site. They are amenable to it.
Every time I went there.
We are moving ahead with that. I am heading up this initiative.
Those stories. How long you lived here?
You guys. 2017.
Doing something at First Aid Solution,
Oh, you will.
Trying to fix it, but
Zoom conferences.
we're having sound issues, just to help clear things up. Right,
20 years.
It's 5:30. Got two shots. Well, everything else has started, I just need to come here.
Fire,
Right, yeah.
family. I've been wrong about that before.
I would like you to join me.
Good evening, and welcome to the City of Palm Coast Hybrid February 17, 2021 Planning and Land Development Regulation Board meeting. Due to the current threat of COVID-19, the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board is meeting via a hybrid process as prescribed by the City Council. This meeting is being held in person with limited attendance as recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and by the CMT virtual attendance. Notice that this meeting was going to be held by communication media technology along with a physical location was posted on the city's website. The notice provided that those members of the public needing reasonable accommodation to participate in the meeting were informed to contact the city clerk for assistance by noon on Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Access to this meeting is being provided via live stream on the city's website at www.palmcoastgov.com and at 386-223-1690. Should technology difficulties arise, the chair may recess or adjourn the meeting and advise of time to reconvene or reschedule the meeting. If you have a problem connected to need technical assistance, please call 386-986-2391. Public participation will work as follows. The chair will call for public participation. Those in physical attendance will be given the opportunity to address the PLDRB members by approaching the podium. When no further in-person attendees approach the podium, the chair will then call for public participation from callers that are on the line to address the board. For all callers, prior to calling in with your comments, if you are watching the meeting from our website, please mute your computer. So when you call in with your comments, there is no interference. To participate via phone, please call 386-223-1690. You will need to hit star 9 to raise your hand to provide your comments when you would like to speak during public participation. You will be acknowledged by being unmuted, and you will hear a message that you have been unmuted. Please begin by stating your name clearly and slowly for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When there is a 15 seconds left on your 3 minutes, you will hear a beep. And then at the end of your 3 minutes, you will hear another beep, and you will be muted at that time. You will not be disconnected from the meeting. All callers will have the opportunity to speak. Please be aware there may be a short pause as we switch to the next caller. Okay? So today is February 17, 2021, and we're going to please rise and join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next thing, roll call, please.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Hilton are excused. Mr. DiMaria.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas.
Here.
Mr. Albano.
Here.
Mr. Scully.
Here.
Ms. Shank.
Here.
Mr. Lemon.
Here.
Ms. Bott.
Here.
Ms. Nicholson.
Here.
Chairperson, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our December 16, 2020 meeting. Any corrections or additions, or is there a motion from the board?
Motion to accept the minutes of our
Have
December.
a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
You have a second. Any questions or amendments on the motion? If not, make a roll call, please.
Mr. Albano.
Yes.
Ms. Lucas.
Yes.
Ms. Shank.
Yes.
Mr. Scully.
Yes.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Ms. Nicholson.
Yes.
Mr. DiMaria.
Here.
The motion.
Yes.
The motion carries 7-0.
Okay, result, okay. So, the motion passed, the minutes are in the record. Okay, first thing on the agenda is going to be Pineapple Ink Tattoo Shop Special Exception, application number 4611. Who's calling it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Deputy Chief Development Officer Raymond Tyner. Welcome, everybody, tonight. The first item on the agenda is for a special exception. It is for piercing and body art under our Land Development Code. If it's in COM 1 or COM 2, it's done by special exception. So Mr. Hoover will have the staff details with his presentation.
Go ahead, Mr. Hoover.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Bill Hoover from the Planning Department. Sorry for the delay. The Pineapple Ink Tattoo Shop is proposed at 226 Palm Coast Parkway at the St. Joe Plaza. And the applicant has requested a special exception for tattooing, body piercing, and other body arts in the general commercial or COM2 zoning district that would be located in Unit 225 at the center building. The site and nearby areas are all designated mixed use on the future land use map, also known as the flume. That's shown in red. You can see yellow areas to the north and south further off of Palm Coast Parkway. This is the zoning map. The subject property is zoned general commercial COM2, as well as the land on the other side of Palm Coast Parkway and lands to the east and west on the south side of Palm Coast Parkway. To the northeast is some Office 2, known as Office General, and that is where the ViStar is located. The COM2 zoning district only allows the subject use as a special exception, where if it was, you can see there's a little COM3 across the street there in the Burgundy. That zoning district does allow this use as a permitted use, so no special exception would be required. This is a picture of the center building where this would be located. And the picture on the right shows the unit where Unit 225 there, and I think that's called El Cananazo, was previously located. A special exception analysis is done by staff based on Section 2.0703 of the Land Development Code. There's 3 key criteria. A, is it consistent with the specific requirements for that particular use as set forth in the Land Development Code? The large retail and commercial services site at St. Joe Plaza has already been developed under all applicable standards of the General Commercial District in the Land Development Code. There's no specific requirements in Chapter 4 of the Land Development Code that a tattoo shop would have to also meet. The second criteria, does it meet the concurrency requirements of this Land Development Code? This doesn't really apply too much because the center was already constructed with concurrency at that time. Additionally, all essential services are available to serve the site. C is probably the most important criteria. Is it compatible with surrounding neighborhoods, and does it promote the value of surrounding land, structures, and buildings? The St. Joe Plaza has a wide variety of commercial uses that function very well together. This particular unit is very well buffered from residential uses located to the south. So to walk from this unit, you would need a bridge across the canal, but then there's a lot of heavy landscaping. So no one visiting this center would be able to walk over to the residential neighborhood. The applicant met the 14-day requirement of sending certified mail to all abutting property owners for tonight's planning board public hearing. Staff has received no comments from the public. The planning staff recommends that the planning board approve the special exception 4611 for tattooing, body piercing, or other body art.
And I think the owner applicant is here too, Mr. Hoover? Yes. So if you have questions for me, I'm available. The applicant, I believe her name is pronounced Sartsak. She's here as well.
Does the applicant want to present anything, or just you, Mr. Hoover? That's it?
She does not have a presentation, no.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Hoover or the applicant on the board? No questions? Okay, we'll go to public participation. Just reminder the policy previous stated on this public participation. Anybody for public participation on this applicant? If not, I'll close public participation. No other questions or concerns?
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Can you tell me if the applicant has operated this kind of a business previously, and how long?
Can you approach, there was a question for you, if you can come up and, state your name and for the record, and she's asking you a question.
Hi, my name is Sarsak. I used to own a tattoo shop before. It's in Middleburg, Florida. That's like 10 or 13 years ago. And the shop been closed down because of economy. And I'm back in business, trying, open a tattoo shop again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, Ms. Dotson, Lucas, and O'Connor?
No.
Nobody has questions? If not, then is there a motion from the board? Pardon me?
Did you check if anyone's on the phone?
Am I on the phone? Okay. I didn't hear my phone ring, so. Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve application number 4611, special exception for tattooing, body piercing, and other body art.
We have a motion, have a second. We have a second. Any questions or amendments on the motion? If not, let's do a roll call, please.
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Shank?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes,
The motion carries 7-0.
thank you. Congratulations, thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's the category, we understand.
Yeah, but.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
just
what-
the category that we lump it into.
Right,
Yep.
thank you. Okay, next thing item is Colbert Landing North Parcel Rezoning Application Number 4610.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this item, Colbert Landings North Parcel Rezoning, and your next item, number 4, Colbert Landings South Parcel Rezoning. They're technically two separate rezoning applications, but it really is one project. Our attorneys wanted us to do two separate applications because a lot binding or combination hasn't been completed yet, but that will be done, so it really is all one project. The north parcel has a long history. It was originally, when it was annexed into the city, it was zoned PUD. This is prior to the city's land development code, and then, then it was MPD when we established our code. So, and then the south parcel, which was different ownership, was actually straight zoned in our community-wide rezoning to SFR1. So the applicant acquired both pieces of property, and they are wanting to rezone the MPD to the north. Now that we have our conventional zoning that was approved in 2008 for the citywide rezoning, are going to go straight zoning. Instead of doing the master plan development, it's all one piece of property, and they're going to be consistent with the south piece of doing single family one. And also the changes for the south, the only change is that some of the wetlands that are there are now going to go into preservation. And same thing with the north piece. There are some wetlands that are also asked to be zoned to preservation. But with that, Mr. Hoover will do one presentation for both items, but then after the presentation, you'll have to act on both of them separately and get your public participation for those separately as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hoover, whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir. Colbert Landings is located on the west side of Colbert Lane. The south parcel is located about half a mile north of State Route 100. The north parcel is located about 0.8 of a mile north of State Route 100. Together, they're about 292 acres. The property owner intends to develop a single-family subdivision. Earlier this afternoon, we reviewed a preliminary layout showing 494 single-family homes on the 292 acres. Also want to point out this little access road on the south is not part of this rezoning. It's like maybe about 1.5 acres. This is the future land use map, also known as Flume. Both parcels have roughly half of their site as conservation. That's sort of a white color shown on here. And then the other half is residential, and it's shown in the yellow. To the north and west of the subject property, everything is conservation. That's the large Graham Swamp. To the east, pretty much everything is mixed use, which allows almost every zoning district. And then to the south, you can see some residential there in yellow, as well as some red, which is mixed use again. The north parcel is currently zoned master plan development. The south parcel in the light tan color is single family residential 1, or SFR 1. There's a small parcel to the east that's also zoned. It's a separate MPD. It's about 22 acres. The lands to the west and north of this are shown in green. That's PRS, which stands for preservation. The blue hatched areas are master plan development. The red areas are general commercial, or COM2. And you can see some multifamily residential 2, which is I think there's a couple of apartment complexes. The one's over by Beach Village, and the other one I think came in here not too long ago, called Ocean Village for its first phase. The properties shown in burgundy are high-intensity commercial COM3. The proposed zoning map is on the right, and the future land use map, again, is on the left. So I'm trying to show you the intent of the zoning. So on the left map, the future land use map, the area shown in white, which is conservation, it's essentially a part of the Graham Swamp. So the applicant has agreed to rezone that to PRS for preservation, so that way that property is never developed. Whereas there's some a large upland area that's shown in yellow on the left map, the future land use map. That's the area, and there's some low quality wetlands in there also that they're allowed to mitigate for. So that's the area that's being rezoned on the right screen to single family residential 1, shown in the light tan color. The subject properties were annexed into the city back in 2004. I believe in 2005, the city rezoned the north parcel to master plan development for about 250 single family homes on lots that were minimum 6,600 square foot minimum size. At about the same time, the south parcel was rezoned to single family residential 1, or SFR 1. In April 2000, a preliminary plat was approved for the north parcel, and construction briefly commenced, and they started doing site clearing when the Great Recession hit and everything stopped. The applicants want to rezone the north parcel from master plan development, or MPD, to single family residential 1 for the upland areas, and preservation, or PRS, for the other areas. And then on the south parcel, they're starting from single family residential 1 for the entire parcel, and they're rezoning it back to SFR 1 again, and also excluding the wetland areas and rezoning it to PRS, or preservation. So essentially, the high quality wetland areas that are shown as conservation are being rezoned to preservation, and the residential areas that are developable are being rezoned to single family residential 1. And the applicants will combine these two parcels and develop a single family subdivision on about 292 acres and it appears the maximum density would probably be about 1.69 units an acre. Each rezoning that comes before you, staff reviews that for the 5 key review criteria from section 2.0505 of the Land Development Code. A, must not be in conflict with the public interest. B, must be consistent with both the comprehensive plan and the Land Development Code. C, must not impose a significant hardship or liability on the city. D, must not create an unreasonable hazard or nuisance. And E, must comply with all applicable government standards, which includes city, county, state, and federal. Planning staff reviewed the project, or both projects, if you want to say it that way, for the 5 criteria. And we provided detailed findings for each, both the north and the south project, in 2 separate staff reports. The 2 rezonings, in staff's opinion, will not create a nuisance, hazard, or any compatibility issues, as it meets all development standards and is in compliance with their land use designations on the future land use map. The rezoning supports 3 policies and objectives of the future land use element and the conservation and coastal management element of the comprehensive plan. And the project, as it goes forth, will need to meet all applicable standards of the Land Development Code. The applicants several weeks ago mailed out by U.S. mail all property owners within 300 feet of the 2 parcels of a neighborhood meeting that was held at 5:30 p.m. on February 9th. I attended, and 4 people representing the applicants attended. No one from the public attended. A sign was erected on each of the 2 properties along Colbert Lane, and we also ran a news ad for each parcel to provide notice of tonight's meeting. Staff has not received any comments from the public regarding this project. This project will move forward next month to 2 city council meetings. The City Council holds 2 on a rezoning. The Planning Board, in probably 2 months or so, the subdivision master plan will come in for your final review after they submit and staff does a review. Following that, the engineer drawings and preliminary plat are submitted. That's a staff administrative review. And at that point, they're allowed to move forward with a final plat that gets reviewed by the City Council. Planning staff recommends that the Planning Board find these 2 rezonings in compliance with the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code and recommend via separate votes to the City Council for both the Colbert Landings North and South parcels to the Single Family Residential 1 and Preservation or PRS zoning districts. And the applicant's engineer is here tonight, Matt Lottie from Gulfstream Design, and their presentation will follow.
Okay, applicant.
Matt Lottie, Gulfstream Design Group, 906 Anastasia Boulevard, St. Augustine, Florida, 32080. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Planning board members, appreciate your time tonight. Staff's been great to work with over the past few months as GSM Capital's acquired this property, and we've been moving forward with the planning stages. So we prepared just a short presentation here. Bill did a great job running through the highlights. Just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a background just from more of a global perspective. As Mr. Hoover mentioned here, we're at the northwest corner of Colbert Lane and State Road 100. This property has ultimately been slated for development, had water management district applications filed and approved, and as Mr. Hoover mentioned, was under construction, partially cleared. Had some structures in the ground and virtually abandoned by the previous applicant ownership group. So GSM Capital acquired the property at the end of last year, and we've been actively moving forward with surveys, geotechnical information, getting the rest of our background information reassessed to move this thing forward through full design and permitting in an expeditious manner. So just a quick summary here. As Mr. Hoover mentioned, 2007 was approved in a two-phase project. Part of it was an MPD, part of it was SFR1. That MPD did expire. That's the reason we're back here to kind of true up and clean up the zoning. Permits were issued from the Water Management District for Phase 1 before 2008, Phase 2, 2008. Those permits were subsequently expired, but there is a conceptual permit that was issued by the district that is active, I believe, for another 5 or 7 years. So, GeoSam Capital is the acquisition group that acquired this property. They're out of New Smyrna Beach. They have a successful track record of developing and, in my opinion, bringing high-quality products to the neighborhoods and communities that they develop in.
Could you keep your voice up a little, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Lean into the mic a little bit more. So, as Mr. Hoover mentioned, we're currently zoned MPD, which is expired, and SFR1. SFR1 allows about 7 units per upland acre there, and that MPD had expired. Next map kind of shows how we are, truing up the zoning to be a little bit more consistent with the future land use map. As Mr. Hoover also mentioned, provide reasonable assurance that there will be no future modifications or wetland impacts or an attempt to get some more density out of this project in a future time frame. So we are putting about 131 acres into the preservation zoning of the total 293. So I think that, that's definitely worthy of notation, and I think a good gesture on behalf of the applicant to really help true that up so we don't have any single-family zoning overlaying the conservation land use and just try to clean things up. So here to answer any questions that you may have. Nick Powell is also here as a representative from GeoSam Capital, but I think I can probably field most of the questions you guys may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant from the board members? I got a few questions, if you don't mind.
No problem.
This could be an age requirement, or is there HOA?
There would be an HOA that is responsible for maintaining common areas, stormwater systems, whatever. But at this time, there is no desire to age restrict it. We are moving forward with school concurrency and moving forward as it's traditional.
It'd be gated or not gated?
Not gated at this time.
Okay. That's a property that's, I know it's a dumping area right now, because they dump it.
It is fenced, but it was cleared. When you're going up Colbert, on
Yeah.
the left-hand side there, when you're going to the north, you can see some of where it was cleared back in 2008.
It's a hangout for a person that has to hit a house between 1 to 4 o'clock. They'll just wait right there so they get there by 4 o'clock, You see all the trucks there, so. No questions, board? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Now we'll go to public participation. Reminder of the policy previous stated. Is anybody here for the public participation? Anyone on the phone? I say, I remember this time. Okay, if not, close the public participation. Anything else from the city?
So, is this going to be 2 votes on this?
Yes.
No, they can do I would do 1 vote on this first one,
And then we
and then open up the other one,
Okay.
and then we'll
Yeah.
do public comment
Two
on
different
that.
applicants. Okay, so if there's no questions or anything, I'll take a motion to approve this parcel rezoning application number 4610. Is there a motion?
I'll provide a motion to approve the Colbert Landings North Parcel rezoning application 4610.
Do you have a
Second.
second? We have a second. Any questions or amendments on the motion? If not, let's do a roll call, please.
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Shank?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
The motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. The next application, Colbert's Landing South
I'm
Parcel.
sorry.
Huh?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I had just noticed when I was listening to the motion, I just wanted to ask if it was your intent when making the motion to also find that it's consistent with the comp plan, because I saw that was in staff's recommendation, yet I don't believe that I heard in the motion that it was to be found consistent with the comp plan.
This is to be in compliance with the
Yeah.
comp plan.
So we have to add that on, or we do amendment, or?
I would amend it and do a roll call again. I apologize. I was trying to get to the,
No problem.
Well,
No
while we're-
problem. We're all here to help each other. here.
While we're on the subject, maybe specify also that this is from MPD to SFR1 and preservation.
Let's say,
May as well dot all the i's.
so let's redo the motion.
Okay.
Jennifer, redo the motion?
if you're okay with amending the motion, we can redo the motion.
All right,
I
so,
just didn't catch
okay,
it.
well, for a motion again on application number 4610, and with the planning staff recommendations, and Jake, want to add on?
Okay, so move to recommend to the city council to approve rezoning from MPD to SFR1 on application 4610 for the north parcel, and find that it is concurrent with the comp plan.
And just-
Complies with comp plan.
And I'm not sure if, it's to SFR1 and preservation zoning districts.
Yeah,
That's on
I
the
said
next
that, didn't
page.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Is there a second on it?
I'll second.
Second. Any questions or amendments on the motion?
Thank you.
You're welcome. If not, let's do a roll call again, please. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Shank?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
Amended motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, next one is Cobra's Landing South Parcel rezoning application number 4610. Deputy Chief Development Officer Ray Tiny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we don't have anything to add. That was part of the presentation, so we have nothing to add. I don't think the applicant has
So
anything to
Mr.
add.
Hoover's presentation is the same. Applicant doesn't have anything else to say. Any questions from the board members? No questions from the board members. Okay, so I'll take a motion for the recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry, right.
All those guys.
Public participation. Remind the policy previous stated on this. Any public participation? Anyone on the phone?
No, sir.
If not, I'll close the public participation. No questions from the board? I'll take a motion. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll spit it out again.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, move to recommend that the city council approve the rezoning for application 4610, south parcel from SFR1 to SFR1 and preservation, and find that it is compliant with the comp plan.
Consistent?
You got a second?
I'm sorry, was it consistent with the comp
Okay.
plan?
Any questions or amendments on the motion?
If, maybe to find it consistent with the comp plan instead of compliant?
I'm fine with consistent with the comp plan.
Yeah, okay. So that's added to it. Any other questions or amendments on the motion? If not, we'll take a roll call, please.
Sorry, who seconded? Oh, okay.
Ms. Shank.
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Shank?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
The motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next thing on the agenda is a presentation of Palm Coast Community Outreach Flagler County-wide approach to resilience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. We have on the line some friends from the Northeast Regional Planning Council, and we had asked them to be appropriate to do a presentation to you tonight, this evening, on the work that they're doing, the countywide effort for resiliency. And then they'll explain all that, and Marga right here is on the screen. And you know, we've had a real long relationship with the Northeast Regional Planning Council, and we the city of Palm Coast, Flagler County is part of the Northeast Regional Planning Council. We fall in their region by state law. They exist. They do a lot of planning from a regional perspective. I mean, you've heard, you know, everything about the DRIs and some things that we brought forward, you know, modifying those development regional impacts. Their agency is kind of the clearinghouse and organizing all that, and they do a lot of great work around the region. And, you know, the presentation is very timely that they are, because, you know, some of their work that they're doing and some of their, you know, data that they're finding on resiliency is some things that we may incorporate into our comprehensive plan. You know, this year we are required to do an appraisal report for our comprehensive plan that we do every 7 years, and it's due this year, where all the staff is already starting to do some work on it, and you're going to be involved with that this year. But with that said, I'm going to let them take the lead and talk about their work that they're doing for in the region for this.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. This is Margot Mooring. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Great. I'm the Planning and Policy Director at the Northeast Florida Regional Council. We're at 100 Festival Park Avenue in Jacksonville. And I appreciate the introduction. Is somebody going to bring up the PowerPoint for me?
I think they're working on it.
Yeah,
now.
we're going to do it.
Technical, a little difference right here. Technology.
Well, I actually have another question. Am I correct in thinking that the board has a hard copy of the PowerPoint that they can view? Because I can certainly walk you through the slides. I'd be happy to do that.
It's on our iPads right now.
I think we got it up,
Great.
Margo.
It's coming up now.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so as was said, the county has embarked on an effort to consider a countywide approach to resilience. Next slide. And this is kind of the overview of kind of how we got here. So in 2011, the legislature allowed communities to add something called adaptation action areas to comprehensive plans. They're not required, but they become an option. And what they really are is a way to focus attention. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. In 2015, a requirement was added to comprehensive plan if you're a coastal jurisdiction. So that's called peril of flood. And so the next time you update the comprehensive plan, if you're a coastal jurisdiction, then you have to include peril of flood. It's important to recognize that technically Palm Coast is not coastal under the state's definition. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. In 2018, the county did a vulnerability study. So that's something that's good to kind of have as background data as you look at resiliency. And then in 2019, informed by that study, the city of Flagler Beach updated their entire comprehensive plan. They're coastal and they had to do the peril of flood comp plan policies. And they also did something in addition to addressing the peril of flood requirements. They made their coastal high hazard area an adaptation action area. And the way they described that is they made it an area of focus where the focus would be public awareness of the link between emergency preparedness and adaptation. So it's about marketing and communication and a consistent sort of message to the public. That's what they did. Now, the reason that's significant is because in the case of Flagler County, and by that I mean all its jurisdictions, there's a model for peril of flood policies that the state has found acceptable, so that's important. And the state also went for the coastal high hazard area as an adaptation action area for that purpose is focus of public awareness. So some of those things probably had to do with why in 2020, the Florida Department of Economic, I'm sorry, of Environmental Protection, their Resilient Coastlines program funded a county-wide approach to resilience. And I'll kind of take you through in a little bit more detail how that happened. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is the adaptation action area idea. And again, it's optional, but the thing to remember is that it's an area of focus. So comp plans are allowed to have them, they're not required to have them. Next slide. And in 2015, that's the peril of flood statute, and it has to do with reducing or considering flood risk. And it mentions storm surge and sea level rise. And in 2015, that was kind of a big deal that they were mentioning sea level rise. And again, so it sort of lays out what you have to address. Flagler Beach has already addressed it successfully with the state, which means that there are model policies. So as you look at your comprehensive plan, you may want to consider those. But then it must be said that the state does not consider you required to do peril of flood updates because they don't consider you coastal. Next slide. So there's some resources that are out there that are kind of helpful. Certainly the vulnerability study from 2018. We at the Regional Council have a resilience program, and our resilience coordinator, Sean Lahab, is also on the Zoom with me, should he be needed. There are case studies in Northeast Florida. For example, the city of Jacksonville made its coastal high hazard area an adaptation action area. Now, they did it for the focus, but the focus was different. They wrote into it that they would be looking at infrastructure, they'd be looking at critical facilities, they'd be looking at natural resources within those areas. It was a focus on adaptation. It wasn't so much the messaging of the interconnectedness between emergency preparedness and resilience. So the other resources are, as I mentioned, the fact that Flagler Beach's policies are already out there and available. And I'll just kind of take you through real briefly. We have a kind of community conversation exposure tool that I'll talk a bit about. And when we launched that tool, we did a survey on resilience, and we have the results of that survey by zip code. So that gives us some information about what people know about adaptation and what people think about adaptation. Next slide. So this is the tool that I mentioned, buildingcommunityresilience.com. It's one of those things where you can type in your address and kind of look at various things. Next slide, please. It is useful for a community conversation. These data layers are what you'll find in there. One thing to keep in mind is things change. And for example, the storm surge for evacuation planning layer has just changed. I'll be showing you a map that's slightly updated from what you'll find on this site. So it is a tool for community conversation. But just sort of heads up that it's out there for the 7 counties that make up Northeast Florida. Next slide. So this is how Flagler Beach did it. You guys, I'm sure, are aware of this. The coastal high hazard area is based on Storm Surge 1. That's kind of where it comes from, and then the emergency preparedness folks review it, and it's kind of derived scientifically, and then it also has a practical component. But the thing to remember here is, and the possibility that there might be a county-wide approach, is that the adaptation action area would have the purpose of focusing public awareness on the link between emergency preparedness and adaptation. So messaging, community conversation. Next slide. So this is what we're involved in with the county is working on the FDEP project. So the municipalities of Beverly Beach, Flagler Beach, and Marineland, and the county itself have to do peril of flood. Bunnell and Palm Coast do not have to do peril of flood. But we wanted to have the larger conversation so that each community knows what's going on. And the idea that there would be a kind of county-wide approach to resilience is probably a good one. Certainly that everybody understand and use the same terms. So an adaptation action area that's focused on the linkage between emergency preparedness and adaptation, it seems to us that can't be a bad thing. But it's also important to be said that whatever is appropriate for each jurisdiction is what each jurisdiction should do. It's just there are models to consider as you consider your update to the comprehensive plan. So next slide. So these are the maps. Again, these are the new maps. So in the case of Bunnell, there's no coastal high hazard area within its boundaries. In the case of Palm Coast, there is some. So it's something to consider as you look at your comprehensive plan, the idea of adopting a map that might make the coastal high hazard area part of the plan and an adaptation action area. You don't have to do it in order to address peril of flood, but it would be consistent with the county-wide approach. So it's just something to think about and those model policies from Flagler Beach are also out there for your consideration if you think any of them would be helpful to the comp plan. So next slide, there will be a final report from this work that will be available in April, I believe. Here's the contact information for myself and Sean Lahav, our resiliency coordinator. And again, we just wanted you to be thinking about this as you think about your comprehensive plan. These are some resources that you may want to consider. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
What is the advantage to us complying with the peril of flood, although Palm Coast isn't required at this time, if we did amend the comp plan to reflect that requirement, if I'm understanding it correctly? Especially with the changes, with climate changing so quickly, and that map could change. And so if we did it now or at the next comp plan amendment, what's the advantage to it, even though it's not required?
Is that question?
I'm terribly sorry, ma'am. I'm not really able to hear the question very well. So if someone can maybe paraphrase, or perhaps it wasn't a question for me. My apologies.
I was saying, what is the advantage? Can you hear me now? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Did she say yes or no?
No.
No. Okay, Ray, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, let me try to answer. I mean, we're not, our comp plan policy, although we're not in the coastal high hazard area, we actually in our conservation element address coastal high issues. So this is new data that showed like the storm surge, the flood one, and we're definitely going to change our map. And we have existing policies within our comp plan, such as, really strong on floodplain. And a lot of these areas will fall within, the city's floodplain, and we have those policies and, protections for those lower areas. Because a lot of the areas that we have in Palm Coast are already built out. So things such as critical facilities, making sure that they are away from the high hazard area or from these category 1 surge zones, those type of policies, we're pretty tight to have them already in a comp plan, but using the latest and greatest data that they have, and the sea level rise, and making sure that we do have some policies where we may fall gaps for, because it's been 7 years. So we'll use this data and work with the planning board to update it where appropriate.
So I was just wondering, like, just trying to understand it, in the event, for example, if a storm were to come through and we don't have it officially designated as the CHHA, I think it is, would it impact funding opportunities if, like FEMA, federal funds, or anything like that, if there were disasters that occurred and we didn't have this in place? Is there is this policy connected any type of way to the state or the feds?
Not that I'm aware of, and I don't know if Margot heard you, but, our comp plan policies, they won't hurt you of not getting funding, but they can help you. Sometimes, if you have appropriate policies in your comp plan, and you're getting a grant, you would cite that that's the long-range vision of the city and to protect whatever, and it can help you to have those policies.
Yeah, because it sounds like Margot is almost encouraging us to do so, since Flagler Beach already has a policy that has been approved, and so we have a model. It wouldn't be anything, it would be wise to be overprotected than underprotected, because things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, and like I said, I think we look at those areas. I mean, we are a lot different than Flagler Beach, where you have storm surge.
Right.
We don't have that wave action. We have some properties along the intercoastal waterway. But again, I mean, we're like one of the best in the state for our floodplain regulations and flood protection. That really encompasses a lot of these areas as well. But you're absolutely right. When this is why we have them here, to get you started on thinking about things for when we do our year for our comp plan this year, especially in our conservation and coastal section, to look at some of this data and to consider adding additional policies.
It's not inconceivable that the city of Palm Coast might, with shifting boundaries and various annexations, might end up being required.
Great point.
Fact, and to be consistent now would make more sense.
Yep, it's a great point.
Ms. Duncan?
Any impact on purchasing flood insurance? Are we now looking at, because currently I don't have that.
Good question.
So is this something, if this is an accident, we become more involved with this, that, are we recommending people then to, I mean, if the designation has changed, should we then look at purchasing flood insurance, even though we are not in the flood zone? Is this something that?
No, I guess my point, and I hope, I didn't want to be confusing, but I guess my point is that some of these areas that are in this zone that could flood, like such as Long Creek, okay, we have that as preservation. Some of these areas are already in preservation that we have on our comp plan. And then the areas that aren't, a lot of these areas are already low, that they may fall into our existing floodplain. And what I'm saying is we have strict regulations. For example, a subdivision that comes in, you can't build a house, like the one that we saw tonight. There are little areas that they would have to get out of the floodplain. They would have to fill up in order to protect the folks. They're not required. They wouldn't be required to get flood insurance when they're out of that 100-year floodplain.
Any more questions? You all set? Everybody's on? Any more questions? Or do we have to go on a vote on this or public?
No, this was just informational that we wanted to, again, we're going to be doing the year and bringing this data, and Jose couldn't make it tonight, but, this is some of the data that we'll be looking at and moving forward with our year amendments.
Nothing else? Thank you, Margot. Thank you very much. Okay. Next thing on agenda, board discussion and staff issues. Any board discussions or any staff issues? I got one quick question. We used to get the week in review where we saw the charts where we had the permits issued and stuff like that. Do you still do that chart?
Since COVID right now, we have not been doing that, but Irene we will send you a link on the webpage. What we did do is we created, Jordan helped us out, of creating a awesome map on our website that's accessed,
Right,
that has new development, where development's coming, and it's very interactive. When you click on it, it'll take you to our CD Plus system. It tells you how many units. So
Okay.
essentially, that is going to get you, and we even have renderings in there and architectural. So essentially, that became our report. The same data is in there. So we'll send every one of y'all that
Nice to be
link.
informed. Some people say, what's going there, what's going there, you don't know.
Yep,
Yeah,
that,
it's, you know, they're gonna ask
that'll
us
be
first.
perfect for you.
All right, so
Absolutely.
Everybody comfortable with
Yeah,
that?
we'll get that to you.
Any more? Anything else? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Well,
I make a motion to adjourn.
You have a second? Any questions or amendments on the motion? If not, adjourn. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Nice doing business with you.
Email me the information about today's.
We had our first meeting was